let's see. There we go. Hit up the magic mirror. Let's see. I need to go over to Terrapin. Cthulhu. For those of you that haven't seen the Terrapin update, if you go into the cultist zone, you can grind all the new quests here. Specifically, this dude gives you the newest, well, the current rod that I'm currently going for, Dreambreaker, which is arguably one of the top rods to be getting right now. You can also get the Olodin rod, which is part of the process, because you need the, as you can see, I'm currently using it right now. There's a series of statues, you need 15 of them total. You just go up to these obelisks and turn them all, and once they're all turned, it opens up the trapdoor at the very end for you to be able to go grab it. Because you have 2 in the first room, 5 in the second, then I believe there's 4 and then 6. Currently waiting for Cthulhu's to spawn so I can go after them. A lot of the quests here are fairly simple. It's getting the, it's waiting on the spawns. That's what takes forever for this. Because the quests are like all just collecting the individual exotics to each room to open the doors, and then you have smaller things like go get specific fish and click on some books and then pick up some note papers that are scattered around in all the rooms. But when you click all of the obelisks, you open up this trapdoor specifically. to get the Eidolon rod. Because this is where you have to get everything out. You have the keys that are in each room, the Oath and the Key of Whispers. You have Cthulhu's, and you have Cthulhu's, which are separate ones that you need for the individual quests. But other than that, it's fairly easy to get the new rods and terrapin. Arguably, the Eidolon rod is really good. It has a unique effect when you're catching. Here, let me showcase that real quick. So it applies the Phantom Mutation, which I believe is an 8x multiplier. And then whenever you fish for long enough catching something, it automatically increases it to completely fill the bar. Is that a Cthulhu or Cthulhu? Cthulhu's, wrong one. Dang. Obviously, you can always server hop specifically for it if you need to. All honestly, it's not gonna increase the speed because it's once every 10 minutes that you have a chance of it spawning the pool, which is both convenient and a little irritating because you gotta wait a long time for it. Also preferred beta squid for both of them. Here, actually, let me go to public server in case people end up with me. Wanted to join me. Those of you that don't know, the little square is when you connect. If you pair up a controller to your computer, you can just spam enter to make your life easier when it comes to fishing on here. Though you don't really get that option on mobile and stuff. Because it assumes you're on. It assumes you're on regular controller, so it ends up having a box Kind of like when you press your back button on the controller to select something with the outline, except enter counts as your input, so it automatically lets you spam enter to fish faster. Oh, possibly, possibly. Um, I would like to do Leviathan, but I'm currently waiting on getting Cthulhuds to spawn in the first place for doing Leviathan. Usually I tend to try to spawn things in for people, even if I'm not planning on catching it. Normally there's more people actively doing it, but I wouldn't do a public server to make it easier for people to join if they plan on joining. If you haven't, I've already gotten Leviathan. Actually, I had streamed a couple days ago, and I had gotten the Leviathan I needed for the rod. Leviathan, right here. You need a lucid for the new rod. Oh, cool. Cthulhu Abundance. I'm working on trying to get up to getting. Let's see. I think I saw. Yeah, I can feel that. It took me a while to get mine. In the first place, I had gotten 3 out of the 3 for the pedestals in the final room, and then I had a buddy who had the rest. We used to make it so everybody could catch. If you just delay catching it by deliberately letting it go down a bit, everybody can actually hook it as long as the pool is considered open for it to be a possible catch. which is actually quite convenient. I got everything except for the Cthulhu done for getting the new rod, which took a lot longer than I was expecting it to for the grind. Oh, hopefully this is Phantom. Nope. Come on. I just need one Phantom. Just one Phantom Cthulhu. I actually tend to get really unlucky with getting the mutations on things. Yeah, I feel that. Normally you can't find people that by server hopping that are doing it, mainly because everybody's going into private servers and things and getting people that already have part of it done to get more contributors going towards it. Normally it's just faster to oh shoot, that's what I needed. Normally it's just faster for you to, instead of server hopping, for other people to just go after it yourself or to join a Discord server that's actively doing it in groups. But it's quantifying that you make sure nobody just like catches it before everybody hooks it on their line, because you can get everybody's catches if you just don't immediate catch it. You let it sit on the actual rod for a bit, dropping the progress every now and again. Yeah, I can agree. It's not a hard update. It's fairly easy compared. It's very easy compared to some of the prior updates. Definitely like shoot, I forget the rod. The fabulous rod. That one was awful. Okay, I know I was spelling it wrong. Cath. Because I saw the, if you remember looking at the fabulous rod quests, if you had looked into it, even after they nerfed it, it's still incredibly awful to get. No, I tried. I opened it up. I looked at the requirements, and then I immediately was like, "That's too much effort for how little you get out of it." Because um, if you have the Oni Felix already, it's not even worth it to go get the fabulous rod, because it's not better in terms of grind, because it's a I think it's a 16.5 multiplier, but it's only like a 20% chance of getting it, so it's not really worth using that rod. Like, I can agree, like it's just not worth doing that rod whatsoever. Because you could easily go, as example, you could easily just get Oni Felix, apply Spooky and Eerie, then you have 6 different 7x mutations, and each of them are all like a 20 to a 3% chance of getting it. The 3% being the 10x multiplier on Oni for Puritas mutation, and it's just got better stats all around. And Spooky gives you rapid slashes, which is way better than standard slashes. And then everybody's raving. Now that I have it, I can actually take a look at it better. But everybody's been saying that the Dreambreaker is arguably one of the best rods purely because nighttime gives you a 50-50 shot of boosting the size of your fish. Honestly, I might even just apply Spooky on this one. Bag. Already got 100 lure speed, 50%. Oh, wrong thing. Where is it? Ah, here we go. 215, 22.23, 66. I think I might want Overlord on that. If I can even get it. That's unlucky. It's not a bad idea to... Nah, I'm not gonna risk that. Have any cosmics left? If we're talking best money, the Dreambreaker is really good, but it's not considered the best. It's good for admin abuse, I would say, though, because it's a guaranteed size boost at nighttime on almost on every other cast. So you're getting 50% bonus, which is basically the exact same as using Evil Pitchfork. And then if you apply both versions of the size boosting from both the Cosmic and Exalted, you can get guaranteed giants every other cast with the rod, which is why it's arguably great for if you're doing admin fish and stuff like that. But money still goes to Oni Felix because you're not guaranteed a mutation with this rod. Even if you get the size boost, you're not guaranteed the mutation. So you're only going to be... You're not going to make a flat rate. It's more inconsistent, but if you want raw money gain, then Oni Felix, 7x multiplier, Spooky and Eerie, gives you enough different multipliers to get that every fish will always have a mutation. Just letting you make more. Here, let me pull up the Dreambreaker details, actually. Okay, Distraught mutation is only a 10x, so you'd still be making more with Oni, but this is definitely really good for if you want to get good aquarium fish, like really good aquarium fish. Because you can see you have a lot of aquarium fish in here, but this rod is essentially Evil Pitchfork. So you can get stuff that's similar gains to like getting giant siren spite on your fish. Then if you missed out on it too, you also have the Jack-a-Blazer rod. That one's also really good for making money because it's an 8% every time, 8% progress boost every time pumpkin lands, which it lands every second for the rod. I know a lot of people missed out on this rod though, and which kind of sucks because it's a really good rod. And then I'm really hoping that if you haven't seen the update logs or looked at the videos people have made um, on the black market update that's going to be happening, I think this weekend, or is it, or the next? It was either this weekend or the next, but I'm hoping that they decrease like Nate's rod and the other rods from being 3 billion to like 10 to 50 million, because that would make more sense for players. Because people that macro have like 10 to 20 billion dollars built up, but you have like the people that are like legitimately grinding that don't have time to, grind for hours and hours on end, or have the ability to set up a macro to grind for hours on end for them. So there's a lot of missed out rods that people aren't getting to really enjoy using. Because like, if you haven't seen, Nate's rod is like basically a more cracked out version of Evil Pitchfork and the Dreambreaker. Because it also has a guaranteed size boosting for getting you giant mutation, and because the control bar increases the entire time that you're using it, you always you'll never fail catching a fish, and it has stabs too, passive stabs. I unfortunately was not able to build up enough at the last two black market updates to get it. Yeah, just grinding 3 billion is just not, it's not realistic for regular players. Like here, let me go to the board real quick. Like half of the top players are streamers, and then the ones that aren't actual streamers and stuff is just people with really decent macros that let them run for hours and hours and hours on end, day after day, for the entire week, getting like a few 100 million every week, which is just unfair to players that like don't have like super expensive gaming PCs to run like macros for 24 hours a day. Because that's just not fair to the average player. I even tried to grind for it, but the closest I got was 1 billion, and then instead of keeping, I went and got all the things I needed for other rods. Because I went and got I got the Nessie boat, and then I went and got the sparkling shiny Wrath floppy for getting Odie. I don't know if you were one of the older players, but this actually used to be one of the best locations for grinding. Back a long time ago, like early days for this game. Used to, because back then 100,000 was considered a lot. Now it's like, honestly, aquarium fish are great, but even you still have to be online to maximize them. Because like I have decent ones There's ones that people have that are way higher that I don't know how they achieved getting. Like, the level of luck they need for that's just unfair. Because I tried fishing with, like, getting the, like, giant evil siren spite and stuff like that, using the evil pitchfork to get the max weight ones for the most gain possible for aquarium, but, like, even with that, I still wasn't getting remotely near the amount players were getting, which it didn't make sense to me because I looked on other people's streams and I was using the same rods, same enchants, same everything, but their stuff's like 10 times heavier in size, which, you know, I thought it was partially because of a luck thing, but I'm also starting to notice it's them just like it's mostly just players trading the macro players for them at this point, because because the most I've caught and seen is like 500,000, 543,000, which is like the supersized bluefish. And then Radiant's a 12x multiplier, and Big is a 2x multiplier, and then I got a 2.53 on Treasure Appraise, and it still isn't even close to what other people have. I miss when like 100,000 was considered a lot, because that was honestly like a time frame where it was a lot of fun because everybody was pretty much just using King's Rod or Rod of the Depths in that time frame, because back then that was considered great and the best rods. But now it's just like you don't even look at them anymore. They're no longer useful rods. Oh yeah, that one was also really good. Rod of the Eternal King, or Rod of the Fangs, the Rod of the Fang, which I never really even got because I remember taking a break back when that was considered meta. It's still a good rod though. Let's see, where is it? There was also a time frame when Trident was considered one of the best rods, but now it's kind of like obsolete because the stab ability is just way better on all other rods. Uh, Yeah, that's valid, honestly. A lot of people didn't even want to go get Trident because if you remember the requirements, you had to complete the bestiary, but you have to get the the mine, which that one was just like a 1 in 10,000 chance, but you can only get that using the crab cages, so there is no boosting luck for that. You just have to be either absurdly lucky or just pray that it happens within a 10,000 uh, within 10,000 crab cages, which is why a lot of players didn't want to go get it. And then you had like eventually you had the problem of people realized you could open the door for other players, which drove a lot of it drove a lot of older players nuts, which made it just made it infuriating because there was level 15s that had the rod, which is why I'm kind of glad that they are adding. They're going to be that they're adding a bunch of level requirements to rods. I also don't know if you've used it before, but the we also had where is it along because we also had the original No Life Rod, and I remember that one being a pain to get when it first came out. And this was considered great back then as well, but not very many players had it because of it was just considered oddly really difficult back then. Yeah, that's a big problem too with like admin abuse. Like it's a good thing because it lets people get a really good aquarium fish or helps with getting helps it helps with getting specific rods on ones that are just super unlucky catches. You have to go after like shiny sparkling wrath floppy or things like that, which is that's great, but it's also like a huge thing because smaller players like low levels shouldn't be able to end up getting these fish that are way above what they should be catching, giving them millions and millions and millions and letting them just skip all the way past all the basic rods and stuff, which tends to kill like a certain level of the new player base. Because all the most of the players that play this game are all either prior players or prior old players or just a bunch of freshies that are on Xbox or mobile with like kids and stuff that jump into the game and they get all this free stuff from from just begging and begging and begging until people just want them to be quiet, or they join on an admin update day and they get boosted so far that like you have these numbers where it's like the game drops to 70,000 or 50,000 in between updates, but during updates they have a huge player base. And I kind of find it a little sad. It's like people aren't joining the play the game; they're joining for the admin event and abuse. They're joining for the speed playthrough because they don't want to actually grind. And then, because like most of the rods don't have level restrictions, because you can see the level 296 below me. They're using a trident, which is accurate for where they should be right now. They should be using a trident or a Poseidon's rod or stuff like that, because that's generally was the intended time frame you were supposed to get that rod, was around when you're level 200. But then you get like, you can see this hey, you can see they're holding up a Scylla right now. They shouldn't even have a Scylla because they're neither high enough level or have a good enough rod for begetting Scyllas, and specifically like that corrupted Scyllas. I'm gonna guess if I open the chat bar, it's gonna just be a bunch of, yeah, it's just people asking for stuff. It gets old after a while. Like, I don't mind helping players, but it's like when people are brand new to the game and they ask for cosmic relics and things, I'm like, you shouldn't even be worried about cosmic relics yet. It's like this level 100 only glanced for a second, but I saw in the chat they were asking for a cosmic, which is dumb because they shouldn't even be worried about that relic because they don't even have rods worth putting it on. So if I hit tab, you can see that there's level 200, 100, 100, 200, 100, 500. You have like a lot of these low levels that will hop servers until they find people in the thousands or the 1500s, and they'll go run up to them, and instead of playing the game, they'll just go beg for stuff the entire time. Which gets obnoxious because if you get to an area you're trying to grind, they just keep standing in the way when you're fishing, constantly running their boat in yours when you're trying to catch a meg or anything for that matter. I don't know. It might just be me and the lack of desire to assist. Like, I've given away Scyllas and stuff before, but it just becomes disheartening for playing the game when I'm seeing low levels with things that they shouldn't already have. There was literally a level 35 inside of the Crimson Caverns at one point when I was playing, and I was questioning that they're the whole reason why they're there, because they needed to be 1,000 to get Ruinous Oath, and they needed to be 500 to get the Luminous Oath, which is why I was just like, why are you here? This is not where you're supposed to be. I'm only going to be fishing for like another 45 more minutes, and then I'm going to be stopping stream to go do some work because I'm studying for biology in college. Fun. Yeah, I got most of them. I didn't get the Duskar rod though. I didn't get enough before the end of the update. I didn't have time to grind as much as I would like to. Um, because I got the bat rod, and then I also got the Jack-o'-Blazer like I was talking about earlier. I didn't get the Duskar rod. That was the one I missed out on because I think I had 20,000 out of 25,000, and then the event ended a little bit before that. Yeah, biology has its big study time frame. It's just one of those things where you just spend a lot of effort on it. I really enjoy the. Yeah, I can agree that the bat rod's nice. It I enjoyed while it was here. It's a great thing to have too because it lets you catch a lot of the low tier fish really fast using the bats. Because the way they work is you get an extra one for it being nighttime, you get one just for having the rod, and you get one that spawns every 15 seconds when you catch something. That sucks though that you're only 2k off from getting it. Yeah, it sucked having the grind candy because there was no legitimate way to fixate like a single. There was no one grinding method. You had to do a little bit of everything and alternate because getting the frightful crates wasn't optimal. It didn't give you enough to be worth focusing on that. So your best option was to run back and forth between doing goblin quests and doing the trick or treating on doors. And then even then you didn't make much because you maybe at tops if you're super lucky and you had the mask, the not the Scylla mask, but if you had the other one, the Megalodon mask, for the extra 20% candy gain. Even if you were super lucky with that, you maybe got like about 1,000 an hour, and it's on your best time frame. See, this is what I'm talking about. This Xenox player is still begging for my assistance, even though they could just be fishing. They've just been standing here staring at me. Bro, I swear, some of these players act like they're bots. Bro, this dude's a bot. Look at him. He's like, kid, please help. Hello, you English sicka, whatever that says. He's just been standing here. He's just been standing here actively just asking for stuff the whole time. I don't know. It's mildly. It's mildly funny. It's just mildly funny in general when that happens. Not every day. I do it every other day, like once every other day, because I do have general studies that I'm working on. But I try to stream at least once every other day. Sometimes every day if I get the time to. And then I usually stream multiple things, whether it be fish or Minecraft. Usually just depends on the mood, because I do modded Minecraft a lot of times. And then sometimes I'll do multiple streams in a day, because I usually just have to take at least a couple hours a day to go do some studying and then come back and play some more on usually on the same game for that day. But yeah, I try to. Because you've probably seen like Prominence 2. That one's been a really popular mod I've been playing. I was gonna do originally a first stream for it when I first started, but didn't work out that day. I also recommend Deceased Craft. That's also really popular because if you go on their official servers, I'm often on that a lot. Usually in their server one. I'm usually always in server one on there. It's a lot of fun. You get mutated zombies, regular zombies, guns, gun crafting, ammunition collection. Usually like all these different city spawns and stuff to go run and walk around in. That one's just a lot of fun to play. I do eventually plan to do some daily live streams eventually, but that's after I get done with college junk and can go out more, because I was an Eagle Scout, and that was one of the things I was, known for. And I went out hiking all the time, and I still do. On weekends, I try to hike and go places. But I plan to try and bring a GoPro camera and do like weekend streams and stuff like that eventually. But that's a project when I can afford it. Oh, that's valid. Minecraft's one of those games you usually like stop playing and you come back to all the time. It just never dies. Actually, the reason why I'm starting this back up again is because I'm currently in between life options, doing studying and stuff. So I started streaming again. I used to stream on Twitch, but moved to this because Twitch had too many regulations to follow. Got really boring, and even if you had decent people viewing you, you never really got anything out of it because of the way Twitch was. Yeah, it's also boring. Yeah, yeah, I can agree with that statement on it's boring when you play alone. I have buddies though that I tend to try and play with, though sadly not as much as more because obviously everybody grows up and ends up doing their individual studies and their routes for college or getting jobs and usually exchange jobs. That's a common one. Although I do have to say, for younger people, it's better to enjoy it while it lasts. Because after like in the once you hit 20s, you just everybody goes off to do their own thing. Nobody has time to megalodon. Nobody has time to be on every single day. Turn my quality up. Also, if you're wondering if there's a lack of actual in-game sound, it's because I'm avoiding the whole having to add 9500 tags in for the individual songs that they play in Fish, along with random players that'll go up and turn their audio on full blast, and they'll just like blast copyright music at the full volume. That one drives me nuts. Uh, yeah, I do. I plan to go work in forestry. That's my general job in mind. That's just something I wanted to do because I was an Eagle Scout, and it was just a lot of fun in Scouts to work and just all day out in the trees and the woods. And then when I did my Eagle Scout project, I repaired a bunch of forest, like a whole ADA trail section. There was a lot of a lot of fun actually repairing it. Because a lot of times I wasn't even out working on it with other players. I was other people. I was mostly by myself half the time, just putting down flags, repairing trails, graveling. It was peaceful, quiet. And then eventually, like, I am contemplating after doing forestry for a while, maybe continuing my degree for veterinarian work, or even if I don't go full vet, I'd go partial vet. Particularly, I'd go into um, species conservation, which is a completely separate field. Which that one's also a really interesting path to take, because then I'd go work with stuff like uh, enda- endangered species or restricted species. Restricted species being ones that are like not quite endangered, but they're still ones that have to have their own sanctuaries and stuff like that. It's a interesting job field. It's a lot of fun. There's also, if you ever, yeah, I can definitely say that's a lot of people's dream job. It's I don't know. It's a cool job, but actually be surprised there's a lack of people going into it, because people will start learning and researching or wanting to go into it, and they'll actually quit halfway through. Usually because they marry somebody else inside of the degree field for veterinarian work or for natural conservation degrees and stuff like that. They'll often marry somebody that's in it and fall out of the coursing, or they'll end up giving up because it's too much for them to handle. Because a lot of it's putting down animals more than anything else. It's actually one of the top suicide rate jobs there is for which is veterinarians. Because I mean, you spend your entire day putting down like maybe 10 to 15 animals because shelters are overfilled and they can't keep all the older dogs and cats, and they end up not being able to afford it, so they just get put down, which it sucks. It really does, but it's one of those it's one of those things that you can't really fix. You you have okay, so take for example southern states. If you go to any of the local pounds down south, anywhere from like I would say anywhere from Texas and lower, uh, Alabama, Texas, Florida, a lot of the lower states, they have so many dogs and cats being captured on the streets. All the pounds are full, and they're having to ship animals all the way up to places like Oregon and everything else because they have nowhere to put them. They can't intake these animals. They have no way to care for them, and it just becomes too much for them to save. And then oftentimes if the animal is injured in any way, even if it's a simple thing like a broken leg or a broken hip, that can often just do a fused joint rod, or a simple stint rod inside the actual bone itself. Something that's not terribly hard, but it still costs a lot of money. They can't afford to spend like $1,000 on an animal that has a broken limb or a broken hip. They can't afford that to do that for every animal that comes in. So at a certain point, they just start putting down like a large portion of them because they can't afford it. It's cheaper to put $100 shot in an animal than it is to put $1,000 piece of metal in them for them to end up not getting adopted anyways. Because not a lot of people will adopt animals with problems. I actually did for Scouts. I had to do a whole paper review that I wrote to a I had written to the this was like about 10 years ago, so I don't have the greatest memory on it. But I was at an event. We were writing papers about the issue to the local governors and stuff for an event in Scouting, and there was 10 of us that wrote about the dog and trash problem that was went on, and they increased the fine. They actually doubled the fines in Georgia and Alabama for dumping animals and trash after reading our papers. I have like this. Actually, cool enough. I have a laminate. I have it stuck up on my wall. At one point, it's currently sitting laminated in a box right now because I haven't unpacked it after moving states. So it's sitting in a box right now, but it's in this big board that I have for the wall, and it's got a piece of paper that from the governor and like with their stamp and everything on it, with the written letter of their signature and stuff, stating that they really enjoyed my paper and that they brought it up to the that they actually brought it up at their meeting to have the fines increased, which is the whole reason why they got increased, because it was a couple of us scouts that went and put it forward. And it's really sad that people have to do that and have to push for that so hard. And even with that happening, it's still, even with all these pushes and attempts to make it better, it's not completely fixing the problem, because we have people dumping mutt breeds because they breed purebreds, and anything that's muddled genetics they can't sell, they'll dump because it's just too much money to, because they can't sell it. Once you can't sell it, it becomes a drain on your bank account, and then they just decide to ditch the animal on the side of the road. It's super common, especially in Florida and Alabama. The worst states, surprisingly, is Alabama, Florida, Texas, and um, Tennessee. Georgia is bad, but they're not as bad because they have less breeders for animals, because there's a lot more hound breeders, like specifically hunting dogs and stuff like that. There's a lot of breeding for that has huge amounts of them getting dumped. And it's crazy how much it happens. I had a buddy that works in the animal catching business, and he often, when I talk to him, he's always depressed because he's like, man, I filled up an entire truck full of animals, and I couldn't even drop them off anywhere. He's like, I had to give it to another person in a truck to drive them 8 hours up the way to go get them to a different facility because there was nowhere to stick them. And it's just, you know, it's wild because it's like, we have nowhere to stick them in the southern states. And then the only other option is for them to start just putting them down, which that's even worse because most of the ones that they caught recently were a bunch of puppies, like little itty bitty things. And usually the ones they find have like, usually they're healthy for the most part, but you can tell that they're starving to death. Because he picked up, because I remember my buddy was talking about picking up a litter of puppies at a house in like a in a like trailer park area where they had huddled up under the cement brick foundation that was below it, because it was like a double wide. And if you ever seen, you can pull off the white panel and there's like a 3 foot tall space you can crawl under. They'll go down there, and they were hiding in there, and he had to go crawling in to go get them. And all of them were like starving. They were healthy, other than that they were starving to death because they were ditched. And they were all clearly bred dogs because half of them were purebred. They just weren't. They just had vein or heart problems. that were like required medicine and stuff that would have been considered expensive for people to do. I want to go into forestry and animal conservation and animal health in general just because, I love animals and I want to stop these things from happening. So I want to go into the job to help with it, help try and assist in fixing the problem. Also, for reference, only like 1 in 7 people that go into veterinarian work actually complete the college studies. For reference point, they and half of those people, it's because they married somebody in that degree path, and they ended up dropping out because the other person was going to complete it, and they either got pregnant or they got somebody else pregnant, and they had to drop the job to focus on a sustainability and making money. Super common. And then the other half of them is people that gave up because it was too depressing for them to handle. I had a biology course where we had been dissecting pigs, and I remember there was three girls that were bawling their eyes out in the corner, and they actually gave up on the degree entirely after that class because they couldn't handle cutting into animals even though they were already dead. Because at that time frame, the whole thing of it was us getting assorted with anatomy, so that way you could be able to properly properly diagnose problems externally before having to cut into an animal, and then being able to find complications in the animal while you're actively already cut into it, because usually you don't want to have multiple surgeries. An animal can't handle that sort of thing. Multiple surgeries is just too strenuous, and it makes it way more difficult because unlike a human's larger, we have more cells to work with. We have thicker bones, larger quantities of blood, and with dogs, blood is like a whole other problem to situate doing with them. Because humans, you have all these different variations of blood types. You have the same thing with dogs. You also have different breeds, different variations, and different amounts of drug use that you can use on them because they're much smaller. You have to be much faster about surgeries when it comes to them because they're smaller. Because again, less blood, less body size, much longer recuperation. Just less there is just less there in general. Makes it more of a risk. Yeah, because so when people can't often afford it, it's also sad, and they often choose to put them down. But there's also a lot of people that put them down for no reason. Uh, Example, it's often recommended by vets to put down animals before they're like example dogs. They live till they're about anywhere from 14 to 16 years old. I've had a dog that lived to 16. Super healthy dog. She ate science diet stuff. I think I'm pretty sure that's what kept her kicking for so long. And a lot of times they recommend putting the dog down after like year 12 to 13 because they don't want to, joint the amount of joint problems they get is understandable. But a lot of times, unless they're actually in pain, there's no reason to put them down. And you'll often get these people with dogs that are 10 years old, still super healthy, but they're not puppies anymore. And so people will like go, "Oh, I heard you're supposed to put them down before they get too old because of joint problems," but the animals won't have any joint problems, and then yet they still technically can push for it in certain states, which is why it's really upsetting. Because you can get you get people putting down their animals well before they should be, and there's nothing you don't really have a say in it for the most part. Because even after you say, oh, this animal's perfectly fine, it's still healthy, it's still happy, it has no, it's not in pain of any sorts, you just don't want to pay for an older animal. You would rather have a brand new puppy or something, and it's dumb. Because I feel like if you committed to an animal for oh so long while it's small and cute, you should commit to it when it's an old animal, and commit to seeing it through to the end, letting that animal live a long and happy life. Yeah, it's just simply wild what people do. I remember going and sitting through picking up medication for my dog because she has an ear problem every now and again, and you just have to get stuff to clean out the ears and wipe it down. It's stuff similar to iodine, but it's supposed to help with skin problems in the ears. Usually, it's an irritation to the point that she'll scratch at it until it bleeds. So it's stuff for itching, stuff for keeping the ears healthy and keeping it from getting any form of infections and stuff. And sitting there, and I just look to my right or my left, and I often see people with like older dogs, but not quite old enough to be considered, worthy of putting down. And then they'll be requesting to put them down, and then I'm just sitting there and I'm like, that's stupid. You shouldn't have an animal if you're not willing to take care of it up to a certain age. It's like, it's still super healthy. Like, I'm not completed on my degree yet, but I've have enough biology courses under me that I can tell if an animal is actively in pain or if it has problems and stuff. Because you can at least have a rough estimate. You can still, even though I can't diagnose specifics, I can at least understand what to look for. There were no joint problems. There was no any form of indication of back problems, hip problems, anything of that sort. No jaw problems, no eating problems, no sight impairment. The animal was able to walk and follow the owner around just fine. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, there's no reason for you to put down that animal yet. It's still young enough that it's got at least another 3 years, 4 years in it. It's crazy. Yeah, that's a common thing with puppies. That actually happens a lot often. That actually happens quite a bit with getting fluid when they eat. Also, it depends on breed to breed. It's worse on certain breeds. I've seen it a lot in mixed breeds between like Chow and Retriever mixes. That one's actually quite common for that. You probably haven't had the you probably seen it online, but you actually have like maggots and other things that will happen on dogs when they get problems like you see a lot of animal hospitals. They'll make like sometimes I'll have people that'll do videos of them pulling out the large botfly larva. I forget. It's been a long time since I've looked at those, but they're like these large black maggot-looking things that burrow into the skin. Usually they get laid as eggs on the skin, and then a failure to clean or brush the animal, or from it laying on its side where it can give it time to get up under the skin and stuff, where they don't scratch at it. Often in animals that are ditched and stuff. That had to remove fluid a time ago. Yeah, that's a under certain circumstances, I can. That's was it cyst-like fluid or was it like like a cyst like a or was it like a fluid buildup in the gum line? Like from an infection or something. Uh, Sometimes it varies. Sometimes they grow out of it, sometimes they don't. Um, it's different from animal to animal, and it depends on the specific diagnosis of it. I know that there's a lot of dogs and cats that will have fluid problems in their mouth or gums or cyst problems that just never really go away. They just get them consistently every couple year to a couple of years. But it is something that does lessen a lot when they get bigger, depending on what variation of the problem it is. Because for reference, like, huh, interesting. That one's a bit different from one of the ones from any of the ones I've studied with with the with the stomach bloating. I know there's different. I've seen like a couple versions of it where it's like an intestinal tract uh, variation caused from muddled genetics, or usually when people breed different sizings of dogs, like water fluid. Is hmm, I don't know. I'd have to see like the specifics on something like that. Like I said, I'm not completely through my studies. I'm like most of the way through. I've learned anatomy, general surgeries, stuff like implementing metal in the bone works, physical surgeries. But when it comes to like diseases and stuff like that, I'm still getting into that because I'll be learning more of that in when I start studying molecular infrastructure and my because I've done all my biochemistry coursings and stuff like that for classes. All my anatomy-based biologies, general DNA structuring, stuff like that. All the fun stuff that has to do with genetic problems. All those advanced courses. Okay, that sounds like a I don't know. It sounds like you're describing a bloated bloated liver or bloated stomach. I've seen a lot of kidney problems. I haven't seen very many liver problems. I've seen liver problems once or twice in our studies, but that was at like the beginning of our coursing. Because I'm thinking of a hepatic uh, uh, fuck word hepatic acid astis. It, I can't remember how to properly say it, but it was the liver disease is what I'm thinking of. The astes, which is like the buildup of fluid in the abdominal cavity, which is usually an underlying condition from liver disease. Yeah, because that's what I'm thinking of because of the water tablets and that you mentioned. Because it's not a it's because if it's an astes, it's not part of the general aging process of it all. Usually, it's a disease or something that's got to be treated. It varies on what version it is, or sometimes it's a I don't know. It's usually stuff that's similar to like fatty liver disease or bloated liver diseases and haptis liver diseases. It's just variations of liver disease is what I'm thinking of for it. It I'm thinking of a hepatic microvascular dysplasia or atrophy, which is the inherited condition, which is often with these microscopic blood vessels or undeveloped smaller liver sizes, which usually leads to like the smaller stuff like fluid buildup inside it, cause fluid buildup in their body. It I also remember that stuff usually having like vomiting or diarrhea for those as a common underlying problem that goes along with it. Although if it's just the bloated problem, that that usually is fixed with general medication, and it doesn't go away when they're older if it's the type I'm thinking of. But I know it's usually better managed with tablets as they get larger, and you can just manage medication for them. Because it's usually because the condition's usually known as astes, ascites, ASCITES. The I don't remember the exact pronunciation of it properly, but a small liver problem, often in puppies and dogs, where it's just an underdevelopment which causes the fluid buildup inside it, or bloating, often referred to as bloating. Sometimes it can happen because of high blood pressure in the liver, or low protein levels, or hormonal imbalances that are related to other liver diseases. But that's one of those ones where it's like, I don't know, it's interesting because it has a lot of different variations to the problem. Well, with it being just the bloating, it sounds like you got it. You got it got the puppy got the better end of the stick with that. It's also really interesting how there's how animals can have a lot of similar problems to what humans can get, but they also get a large quantity of problems that are just way different. Mostly genetic problems in general. It varies from breed to breed, but I do say giving them like giving chicken like some, like if you ever get like if you ever go get Costco chicken or something like that, if you often get that, you pull that apart and you make that for your wraps and stuff. You can give some of the leftover chicken skin and chicken to them, which is great protein intake for them. To do as like a snack or a treat once here and there. Or often you can get like those um, uh, life life those like puppy life food wet food packs, which usually are like these little square things you can find at the store. That's usually just straight up chicken, processed chicken that's just set aside for them, or it's chicken and peas and stuff like that. There's also a lot of different fruits and veggies that you can actually let them have. Like there's certain stuff that you can't give them, but there's some stuff that's actually good for their skin or good for their heart and liver and etc. But chicken is really good for dogs and cats in general because it's good protein content. And you don't even have to give it to them very often. Like if you just give them like a thing of chicken every once in a blue moon, it's just like like a once a week thing, or like as a once or twice a week thing, just for like an extra protein intake for them. That's usually quite healthy, and it helps out a lot when they're young, especially when they're developing muscles or their body's still growing, or when they're underdeveloped puppies, like runts of the pack, stuff like that. Usually just some form of protein content that's just good and it's not as fatty. A German mix. Yeah, I can definitely say chicken. German mixes really enjoy chicken. It's a good thing to have in their diet. I currently have a retriever chow mix that I love with all my heart. Love that dog so much. And we give her usually leftover chicken and stuff, but we have like wet food that we give her every morning and night. We cut it up into like thirds, and then we dice up the meat a little bit so it can be spread out in the dry food. Because you don't, if you get them too in habit of eating wet food and stuff, they tend to not eat their dry food because I would put it more as like the animal getting snooty about their food intake. So I usually mix it in with mine. Because you can easily get, let's see, like the stuff that's kind of like a Caesar. Caesar is a good one. I usually get Caesar. I was trying to think of what the name of the brand was, but you can usually get Caesar the Caesar fillets or mignons or chickens, and those are usually good because you can cut them into thirds, and you can get like one, you do a third of the food, you take the rest, you stick it in a baggie, and then you put it in your fridge, and you do like a third in the morning, a third at night, that sort of thing, because that's usually good because it gives them an extra protein intake for their day, for their growth and stuff. I know that's really good for health. And then if I order Costco chickens, you just give them some of the skin, leftover skin and chicken when you pull all the meat off of it. That's actually a that's actually usually a indicator for stomach problems or upset tummy for dogs and cats. Because if they're trying to actively eat bits of gravel or grass, grass is a really common one. It's usually an indicator they have a bit of an upset stomach, and usually dogs and cats will eat bits of grass and gravel to try and either A, get themselves to throw up, or B, uh, kind of push it down. The stone thing, though, you really want to try to avoid letting them do, because I know that if they can ruin their teeth doing that, it's not a great habit to let the animal get into. Because even if they really want to eat the grass or to eat the bits of gravel or stone and stuff off the ground and stuff, or chew on hard things that they shouldn't be chewing on, like you don't want them accidentally eating chunks and stuff or chewing on chunks because you don't want them to damage their teeth or swallow a large piece that could get stuck in their stomach, that sort of thing, because that's not a great habit to allow the animal to get into. Grass is usually fine for the most part. You don't want to let them do it, but it is a natural thing that they often do, and it indicates an upset stomach or usually just them being sick. Or maybe it's usually just like they ate too much too quickly and they have they're having a gas problem, and the only way that really animals understand for helping that is trying to consume something like grass or gravel or something to help with it. That also might just be a puppy. That's also partially a puppy thing. Puppies tend to try and chew on things that they're not supposed to, and they'll often eat bits and pieces when they're chewing on something if they manage to break it apart. There's now yeah, you really don't want them swallowing things like that. They tend to do it when they chew things apart into little pieces. It's something they just tend to do. Puppies are it's really common for them because everything is a chewable object that they can possibly ingest, and usually that's just doing your best to prevent it. But it's you know after a while when they get bigger and you keep getting on to them about it, usually they eventually learn to stop doing it. But it's currently 2:55 my time, so I'm gonna start working on college stuff. So I'm gonna be calling this stream a quits for the day. But thank you for watching the stream, and have a good one. I'm going to go do some college stuff, and you'll probably see me streaming again tomorrow or the next day. I'll try to post a little bit beforehand. But have a good one. Peace out, everybody.